The mission in Silicon Valley had been a complete success. Agent Tony Spears, codenamed Viper, watched the morning sun glint off the Golden Gate Bridge, taking in a rare moment of peace in his line of work. His team had just dismantled a global cyber-terrorism network, a silent war fought with keyboards and code rather than bullets. They had prevented a digital catastrophe that would have crippled world economies. The job was done, the data was secure. It was time for a well-deserved break, or so he thought. Beside him, Dr. Aris Thorne, the team's brilliant but eccentric tech wizard, was already packing away his custom-built decryption devices, muttering about needing a new processor. Their celebration was short-lived. Just as they were boarding a commercial flight back to London, Tony's satellite phone buzzed with a distinct, urgent signal. It was a Priority 1 recall from MI6 headquarters. No details were given, only the command to report immediately. The team exchanged weary glances. A recall like this meant something big had happened, something far outside the usual scope of international espionage. Back in London, Zahra Al-Jamil, the team's cultural specialist and master of disguise, was also summoned. Her expertise in Middle Eastern and North African affairs suggested the new mission would take them far from the polished offices of California. The final member, a former French Foreign Legionnaire named Jacques Leroc-Dubois, was pulled from a training exercise in the Alps, his formidable strength and tactical skills suddenly in high demand. The journey back to the MI6 building overlooking the River Thames was tense and silent. The usual post-mission chatter was replaced by quiet speculation. What could be so important that it required the immediate assembly of their entire specialized unit? They were a unique team, hand-picked for their diverse skills. Tony was the leader, the strategist. Aris was the brains, capable of hacking anything. Zahra was the chameleon, able to blend into any culture. And Jacques was the muscle, an unstoppable force. Together, they had handled everything from stolen nuclear codes to political kidnappings. But this sudden, cryptic summons felt different. It carried an unusual weight, a sense of foreboding that chilled the air even inside the heavily armored car. Stepping inside the sterile, high-tech halls of MI6, they were met not by their usual handler, but by the imposing figure of the deputy chief himself. This was a significant break in protocol. The deputy chief only appeared for matters of the highest national, or in this case, global security. He led them past the bustling analyst pools and down to sub-level 7, a section of the building so secret that even most senior agents didn't know it existed. The atmosphere grew heavier with each descending floor. The mission, whatever it was clearly off the books. It was something the world was not ready to know about, and they were about to be thrown right into the middle of it. The briefing room in sub-level 7 was stark and cold. A single holographic projector sat in the center of a large circular table. The deputy chief wasted no time. At 0400 hours Zulu time, he began, his voice grim. A US surveillance satellite detected an unidentified object entering the atmosphere. It was not a meteor. It moved with controlled deceleration. He gestured to the projector and a grainy satellite image appeared. It showed a long, dark shape descending over North Africa. It crash-landed in the Sahara Desert on the border between Egypt and Morocco. We have confirmed it is not of human origin. The word hung in the air, unspoken but understood by everyone. Alien. The deputy chief swiped his hand and the image changed to a high-resolution drone feed. The team stared in disbelief at the object now resting in the sand. It was a vessel, sleek and black, unlike any aircraft they'd ever seen. It was enormous, at least half a kilometer long, and seemed to absorb the harsh desert light, giving off no reflection. The vessel is emitting a strange greenish gas, the deputy chief continued. Our preliminary analysis shows it is a terraforming agent, but for what? We don't know. Worse, the ship has deployed something or someone. He zoomed in on tiny figures moving away from the ship. They were tall, slender, and moved with an unsettling grace that was distinctly non-human. The primary question was immediately obvious, and it was Zahra who voiced it. Why Africa? Why the Sahara? The deputy chief nodded grimly. And that is the central mystery, Agent Al-Jamil. We have no idea. Some theorists in this very building have long speculated about ancient ley lines or unique geological properties in that region. Some even whispered that the Great Pyramid was not a tomb, but a beacon. The idea was outlandish, the stuff of fiction, but now, faced with an alien ship sitting in the desert, no theory seemed too wild. Could Africa be a gateway, a portal to other worlds hidden in plain sight for millennia? The mission was codenamed Operation Desert Strike. Their objective was clear but incredibly dangerous. Get to the crash site, assess the threat, and understand the aliens' intentions. They needed to find out why these beings had come to this specific spot on Earth. You will be the first on the ground, the deputy chief concluded. No other agency knows the full extent of this. You will have a small support team, but you are essentially on your own. The fate of this continent, and perhaps the world, rests on what you discover in that desert. The weight of the mission settled upon them. This was not about politics or money. This was about the survival of their species. The flight to a remote Egyptian military airstrip was a blur of preparations. Dr. Thorne calibrated his atmospheric sensors to analyze the mysterious green gas, while Jacques meticulously checked their specialized weaponry, designed for unknown threats. Zara studied ancient maps of the region, cross-referencing them with geological surveys, searching for any anomaly that might explain the aliens' choice of landing site. Tony Spears, meanwhile, coordinated their plan of approach. They would travel overland in unmarked desert vehicles, approaching the vessel under the cover of darkness. The goal was observation first, engagement only if absolutely necessary. They were walking into a situation with zero intel, and the first rule of survival was not to announce your presence to a potentially superior force. Touching down in Egypt, the heat hit them like a physical blow. The air was thick with sand and the promise of a grueling journey ahead. They transferred their gear to a pair of rugged, sand-colored jeeps and set off towards the Moroccan border, guided only by GPS and satellite coordinates. The landscape was vast and unforgiving, a sea of endless dunes that seemed to swallow the sky. As they drove deeper into the Sahara, a strange silence descended. The usual desert wildlife was nowhere to be seen. It was as if every living creature had fled, sensing the intrusion of something profoundly unnatural. This unnerving emptiness was the first sign that the alien presence was already altering the environment. After a 12-hour drive, they reached the designated perimeter. From a high dune, they got their first look at the alien ship with their own eyes. It was even more immense and imposing than the drone footage had suggested. A faint emerald haze shimmered around it, the terraforming gas. It pulsed with a soft, silent rhythm, casting an eerie glow against the twilight sky. Through powerful binoculars, Tony could just make out the alien figures moving near the ship. They were not building or exploring. Instead, they seemed to be performing some kind of ritual, tracing strange patterns in the sand and placing metallic rods at key points. It was methodical, purposeful, and completely baffling. The team set up a mobile command post a safe distance away. Aris immediately began his work, deploying a micro-drone to collect an air sample. "The gas is complex," he whispered into his comms unit, his eyes glued to a monitor. "It's a cocktail of unknown elements, but it's rewriting the local biome on a molecular level. It's making the sand and air receptive to something." Jacques scanned the perimeter, his hand resting on his weapon. "They are not armed," he noted, "but they move with the confidence of beings who do not fear a threat." The investigation had officially begun, but with every piece of new information came a dozen more questions. The initial phase of Operation Desert Strike was a waiting game, a tense exercise in patience and observation. From their hidden outpost, the team spent the next 48 hours gathering data. Dr. Thorne's analysis of the green gas grew more alarming by the hour. It wasn't just changing the desert, it was creating a unique energy field. The metallic rods the aliens had planted were acting as conduits, channeling this energy towards a central point directly beneath the ship. It was as if they were trying to turn the very desert itself into a massive battery or a transmitter. But for what purpose? Was it to power their ship for a return journey, or was it for something far more sinister? One of the greatest challenges was the environment itself. The Sahara was a formidable adversary, with scorching daytime temperatures and freezing nights. Sandstorms could appear without warning, threatening to bury their equipment and blind their senses. The aliens, however, seemed completely unaffected by the harsh conditions. They moved through the blistering heat and biting cold as if it were nothing, their tall, slender bodies seemingly designed for such extremes. This raised a chilling question. Was this environment hostile to them, or had they chosen it because it was in some way familiar? The team had to contend with their own human limitations while facing a foe that appeared to have none. Zara's research into the region's history and geology yielded a fascinating, if terrifying, theory. The crash site was located directly above a massive, dormant, underground water system and a convergence of unique magnetic field lines. Ancient legends from local tribes spoke of this specific area as a place where the sky touches the earth and the gods would descend. It was always dismissed as myth, but now it seemed to be a prescient warning. "They didn't crash here by accident, Tony," Zara explained, pointing to a swirling pattern on a holographic map. "They chose this spot. This is a nexus point. If you wanted to open a door to another place, this is where you would do it." As the mission entered its third day, the stakes were higher than ever. The team had more questions than answers. Why were the aliens trying to create a massive energy field? What was their ultimate goal? Were they colonists, explorers, or something else entirely? The mystery of their arrival in Africa remained unsolved, but the theory of a portal, a gateway between worlds, was becoming more and more plausible. Tony Spears looked out at the glowing alien vessel, a dark scar on the beautiful desert landscape. He knew his team was standing on the precipice of a discovery that would change humanity forever. Their investigation had just scratched the surface, and the real adventure, the real danger, was only just beginning.